Genshiken Nidaime as a show has one core thought running throughout the series: acceptance. Accept other people. Accept who they are, what they like, how they act, even if it's not, quote, normal. This is, at its best, the greatest thing about the anime fandom community, after all. The ability to share thoughts with others regardless of differences, because we all accept one another. The original Genshiken series taught me how to be proud of being an otaku. Not because being an otaku is something to be proud of, necessarily, but because people should be proud of themselves. Hating who you are doesn't get you anywhere. I was, and continue to be, an otaku. I fit into that mold. I care far too much about anime and manga. I want to own all the collectibles I come across. And I identify as a person that is perhaps borderline obsessive about loving anime. And none of this is by choice. For reasons that defy explanation, I am attached to anime as an art form, as a storytelling platform, as a source of entertainment. I watch it when I want to be happy, when I want to laugh, when I want to cry, when I'm angry, when I'm horny, when I want to enjoy something visual. Not only that, I also listen to anime music, whether it's background music from a series I enjoyed, or opening and closing songs I've heard over and over. I am an otaku. Even if the term is negative, even if people scoff at me when I use it, it fits who I am. I can use that term. I can be that obsessive and single-minded. It's okay. Other people are, and they survive and lead happy lives. I can too. And the original Genshiken series taught me that lesson. So it's fitting that the second season of Genshiken would also focus on people accepting others, as well as accepting themselves. The core of the show is obviously Hato, who I believe is non-binary. The character dominates the majority of the show, and the very opening seems to say, "This is the Hato show, all about Hato." They are the first person we see, and they greet the viewer with a smile as the title appears. A white silhouette of Hato runs during a montage of other characters, until the silhouette turns into a person who, tired from running, is surrounded by memories of friends, which allows the dark skies around Hato to clear up. Hato is flying through the bright blue sky of a world where they belong, twirling in joy until they burst into an ecstatic smile while drawing BL, or Boys Love, or Yaoi in the States. This part of the opening represents what Hato experiences by being part of the Genshiken. The club accepts them, and their love for BL, and their cross-dressing. After running from everything and living in metaphorical darkness, the darkness of being ostracized, of having to hide who they are, or simply being alone and without anyone with whom they could share their interest, Hato found the Genshiken. Not only could they now be who they wanted to be, without being rejected or feeling ashamed, they also had a place to embrace their distasteful interest, the love of BL that others might see as disdainful or repugnant, but which was applauded at the club. If that happened to me, I'd be flying on cloud 9 too. The rest of the opening looks at the rest of the club, which makes sense as the show isn't solely about Hato, but as it ends, it returns to Hato, who steps away from the window and returns to the group, these people that like and approve of them, a big smile still on their face. It is this university club, brought together by a shared interest, that has allowed Hato to examine themselves and come to the conclusion that, even if everything about them isn't figured out, no matter what happens, everything is okay. One of the most important scenes of the series occurs in the last episode. While in the bath, Madarame gives Hato what is basically a pep talk. He says, "I figure cross-dressing's just like robots, lolis, trains, or BL. It's just something you're into. So, don't worry, Hato-kun. You're an otaku. That will never change. And that means whether or not you cross-dress isn't really that important. Do it if you want, and stop when you want to stop. And then you can decide if you'll start again. Doesn't thinking that way make things easier?" Hato is surprised to hear this. "I can decide," they say. Madarame confirms. "You've still got plenty of time." What Madarame is saying with all this is, whether it's liking BL or wanting to cross-dress, or even liking mecha, a person is who they are. Interest don't define a person. Hato is an otaku. This isn't elevating the term or the individual it matches. It's just saying that an orange is an orange. From the beginning of the manga, the members of Genshiken, especially Madarame, have worn the title of otaku proudly. They don't let anyone use it as an insult. They know they can be socially awkward or seen as peculiar by others, but they like who they are. They're happy, and they don't have to fit into anybody else's mold to be so. Hato is also an otaku. They didn't try to be an otaku, they just are. What their interests are and their devotion to them make them one. They would be branded as such by the world, so why not turn it into a badge of honor instead of letting it be an insult? That's how Madarame has always looked at things, and is probably why he's my favorite character in the series. I want to note here quickly that Madarame is not being dismissive of cross-dressing or being transgender. Hato had always explained their cross-dressing as a hobby, something they enjoyed, but had recently shown hesitance towards it, perhaps even a distaste for it. Madarame was being supportive of Hato's decisions, not taking any kind of stance toward cross-dressing in and of itself. For some people, cross-dressing is more than a hobby, but Hato, up to this point, has never shown to any of the other club members that this is the case for them. Hato simply does it as a hobby and says as such. Whether they actually feel that way, well, in the end that's up for the viewer to decide. So, Hato will always be an otaku, an outsider to normal society, but who fits right in with all the other otaku. They will always have a place to belong. If they dress as a man, they'll belong. If they dress as a woman, they'll belong. Hato should simply dress however they want to dress, based on what they want, not what anyone else expects or desires. This is an important moment, because up until this point, Hato has been thrown every which way. Hato has been told to dress like a man because they have a penis. They've been told to dress like a woman because they look so good as one. It's been assumed that they are only attracted to men, assumed that they are only attracted to women. Hato's identity has been, quite honestly, hard to figure out. But there's the rub. Hato cannot be easily identified as a trans woman or a cross-dressing man, cannot be easily classified as straight or gay or even bi, because Hato doesn't know. They're only 18, maybe 19, and figuring out complex issues like Hato's can take a lot of time, especially in a society that is as strict and traditional as Japan's. This happens to a lot of people. Regression can make things that should be obvious, blurry, and uncertain. Pressure from friends and family members, even if the people don't consciously realize what they're doing, can make one question things, or try to find workarounds. If I'm this way, my parents would be upset, so maybe I'm this instead. Or, I don't fit into this group enough, so I don't belong there. Life can be confusing on its own, and gender and sexuality issues can make it even worse, especially since there is no simple test to tell you who you are. What Madarame says is, you're you. That's who you are. And we'll accept whatever makes you happy. Just take the time to figure it out. You've still got plenty of time. Hato is in their first year of college, their first year away from home. It's understandable that they don't have everything figured out. Really, they haven't even had the chance to experience enough to know for sure everything about themselves. People change as they get older, as they experience more. Sometimes just because one thing appeals more or less than it did before. Maybe in the future, Hato becomes comfortable with themselves and their love for BL and stops dressing as a woman, feeling it unnecessary or not who they are. That's one possible outcome. Maybe Hato feels that being a woman is what is more natural for them, that that's who they are, realizing they are a trans woman. That is another possible outcome. Maybe, like I think is the case, Hato embraces both their masculine and feminine side, not conforming to either gender completely. Again, entirely possible. But however things happen, whatever makes them happy, Hato will still be Hato. The group, their friends, will still accept them. That is what Madarame tells Hato, and knowing the characters of Genshiken, it's the truth. The series even ends with Hato going to the club room, which is now adorned with a picture of someone holding his hand out, as if to say, "Welcome, you belong here," opening the door to the welcoming faces of the club. Yes, Hato, you belong. You are one of us. We accept you. You don't have to be a crossdresser or trans to feel good at such an ending, though if you are either of those, the ending might elicit a stronger reaction. That is what every person who is different in any way wants, to be accepted for who they are, to be loved because they are worth loving. The Genshiken accepts and loves Hato, and as the audience, we accept and love Hato, and in doing so, we the viewers should learn that we can and shall be accepted and loved just like Hato, just as we can accept and love others. We don't have to hate, we don't have to reject. We don't have to be hated, we don't have to be rejected. Somewhere out there are people like us, who won't turn us away or expect us to fit into their ideal of who we should be. Somewhere out there is acceptance. At least, I like to think so.